Hello everyone, my name is Cullen Smith. I'm a published author. Today I would like to introduce you all to my brand new published book, The Hive Mind Invasion of Civilization, a compendium of esoteric science, symbolism, and universal secrets. If you'd like to purchase this book, you can head over to my brand new website that I've set up at liftingtheveil.tv, and I will see all of you there. I actually wanted to get just simply into the actual research, the actual facts, and the actual information to show why the earth is not flat. And simply that's what I did from the very beginning. And then there were no ad hominems, there was nothing like that. We were all friends at the time. And it was you are the one who came out and took that as some sort of personal attack because it's an ideological position that you hold. It's a heavily religious ideological identity that you hold, as well as not just you, almost all flat earthers also hold this identity. They believe that it's their sole identity and it is their whole ideology, to where if it was proven false, their entire sense of self, they've built their entire works, their entire personalities, their entire careers. You, my friend Dream Rockwell, many others have built their entire sphere around the flat earth being true, to where if it happened that it turns out that it's not flat, which it actually isn't objectively, we can get into that, but if it wasn't flat, your whole sense of self would go by the wayside, because all the stuff that you've done for the past 7 years would therefore be garbage. It would be worthless. And so that sense is too daunting for someone to actually face and to confront, or to even simply fathom.
Please, you're saying so much fucking rubbish. You sound fucking ridiculous. Shut up and listen to me, okay? I haven't changed since 2011. I've always been nasty, you stupid idiot. Go back to all my videos and you'll see how I treat people just like this. When they look stupid, when they act stupid. I'll be claiming a counterclaim against you because you have lied and made it appear that I did strike a deal with the government. That is your lie. I've got evidence of that. I will counterclaim. I'm going to enjoy going to court with you, Cullen, and I'm going to enjoy this discussion a lot because you're so cocksure that you are right now upside down spinning and hurtling at Mark 88 when you can tell that you're sitting in your room dead still and you still think that you're hurtling through space. You have to be cock-fucking stupid to think that this earth is actually moving. And it's not a religious belief that flat earthers have. It's ancestral to correct your stupid ass. It is ancestral. Your ancestors, stupid, the Smiths, they knew that the earth was stationary and flat up until Copernicus. Did you know that up until Copernicus, almost every single culture was flat earth and stationary? No, you didn't know because you're too fucking stupid. They all did. The Egyptians did, the Mayans did, the Hebrews did, the Jews, the Indians, they all did. Every single culture. When did the earth start moving? Who was the first person to start the moving of the earth? Let's see how history is.
Okay. As far as documentation, to where we knew, as far back as we knew that the earth was a sphere, goes back to the Eratosthenes of the ancient Greeks, had the first documentation that the earth was a sphere, but is to present the best quality evidence right up front, the best arguments right up front, without getting into like the religious and the historical stuff. That's all erroneous to what we can actually objectively show and prove. So that would be at the back end of the discussion, getting into the ancients, the mythology, the cosmology, and all of that stuff. I know that's your main argument. That's pretty much the only thing you have to present. So, but that's actually a weak and it's erroneous argument. So that goes at the back burner, and we can cover that last, if anything. But I've got all of.
It's not weak and it's not erroneous. All of our ancients, every single fucking one of them, including yours, dunce, you are laughing at them, and they are crawling in their graves at how fucking stupid you are, that you think you're upside down fucking spinning with this.
Yes, because
they all did, every single one of them. And Aristotle was a Jesuit. They doctored Aristotle's books in the 1500s. The globalists.
Aristotle was far preceding Aristotle far preceded the Jesuits. The Jesuit society did not exist when
the Jesuits doctored his books, you dickhead. The Jesuits doctored his books.
Okay, well, to back up that claim, you
would Neoplatonic academies, because the Neoplatonists, like Porphyry, were teaching a flat stationary earth. See Porphyry, see Iamblichus, the Neoplatonists, whom were shut down, and then the Aristotelian globalists began their movement of globalism. Global agenda, global warming, global jabbing your ass, global swabs, global community.
These are all erroneous, baseless claims, Santos. These are all baseless assertions that you're making, and they're erroneous. They are irrelevant because it doesn't matter what the ancients or the old medieval people thought. What matters is what we can show and prove right now. It doesn't matter what the ancients thought. That's totally erroneous. It's irrelevant. It makes no difference as to what we can now prove, what we can now show objectively with our own eyes, with our own tools, with our own measurements. The way this entire world has been built, our entire civilization has been built upon the knowledge of geodesy and the knowledge of the dimensions and the motions of the earth and how we can circumnavigate the globe.
Exactly. So they built all those Gothic periods when they knew that they were on a stationary flat earth. Then
that's a baseless claim. That's a baseless claim. They did all these things without thinking the earth was flat, because they knew the earth was not flat since the ancient times when they built. So we can, if you want to use that line of argument, we can get into the actual evidence. But what I don't want to make is baseless assertions. I want to show all the actual evidence for the claims behind that we can show people so they can make up their own minds with their own eyes. I'm not about telling people things and making claims and expecting people to just believe us. That's what I do on my channel, is I show people things and let them see it for themselves and make up their own minds. I don't sit here and use words and tell people to believe what I'm saying. So first off, we could get into into your hero, Giordano Bruno, who was not a flat earther whatsoever, and he was the one directly preceding Copernicus, who was the first one to propose a heliocentric model. Came from Giordano Bruno, which I haven't heard you speak anything about Giordano Bruno since you got out of jail, because he's not a flat earther. And he proved that the earth was not flat, and he's the first one.
I've mentioned it countless times. Does that show that you've been listening to everything that I've published? Thank you. What a compliment. So you've been listening to everything that I've published, but you happen to miss how many times that I've said that Giordano Bruno was working for the Jesuits?
What's your evidence for that?
Because the Jesuits created the stupid globe, didn't they? They are the ones who made.
What's your evidence for that? Because the Jesuits are the one who promoted the myth of the flat Earth back in the 1500s. Such as we know that Christopher Columbus knew that the Earth was not flat, and that they knew that the Earth was a globe when he sailed to America. And so the Jesuit Society are the ones who pushed the myth that the Earth was flat in order to cover up their trade routes of the spice trade to other foreign countries, so that no other just random plebes could use their circumnavigation routes to interfere with their global spice trade. So they knew that the Earth was a sphere. They had knowledge of circumnavigation of the globe since the ancient sites were built on the circumpolar alignment of the globe, from Angkor Wat to in Cambodia to the Great Pyramid of Egypt, which is the very center of the world's landmass, the mathematical encoding. I mean, here, I can show you all of this evidence in my 4.5-hour video that I've got time-stamped here to show, let's see, from the revelation of the pyramids. Let's see where it is. Documentary Revelation of the Pyramids. I'm sure you remember that documentary. It's one of the best ones out there, where they show the ancient circumnavigation and knowledge of the globe.
Using astrolabes, which are based on flat Earth.
No, astrolabes have nothing to do with flat Earth. They are based on the spherical geometry.
So imagine it's the 1700s, and you're a sailor, and you've been tasked with discovering gold or finding a new colony to inhabit, or just to trade or to get from one place to another. So you're in your boat, and you've got to get from one continent to another. Well, how do you do it? You have no GPS, you have no Google Maps, you don't have anything really that you could use in terms of modern technology. So how do you navigate? How do you figure out your latitude? Well, sailors in the 16 and 1700s realized that they could actually determine their latitude using a star called Polaris. Now, Polaris is the scientific name for the North Star. So what you would do is you would go out on your ship at night and you would use an instrument such as an astrolabe or a sextant. And what you would do is you would find Polaris in the night sky and you would measure how many degrees Polaris was above the horizon. Now, that number of degrees is really important, because it turns out that the altitude of Polaris, or the height of Polaris, is equal to an observer's latitude. So if you observed Polaris 48 degrees above the horizon, it meant that your latitude was 48 degrees north. The reason it works that way is because Polaris is located right on top of the Earth's axis. But it's so far away that when light from Polaris gets to the Earth, it basically is all coming in from the same direction because Polaris is so far away. So if you're standing at the North Pole and you want to see Polaris, you're going to look straight up over your head. So if we measure the angle that's formed between the surface of the Earth and straight up over your head, well, it's a right angle. It's a 90-degree angle. Well, the latitude of the North Pole is 90 degrees north. They're the same. If you were to travel a little bit to the south, let's say you were located over here. Well, now we can see that here's the horizon, here's the surface of the Earth. If you want to see Polaris, you're not going to look straight up over your head. You're going to look this way. And so there's a much smaller angle. Maybe that's around 45 degrees. So maybe your latitude is 45 degrees north. If you continue going south, let's say you go to the equator. Well, the horizon, or the surface of the Earth, is right over here. Straight up over your head would be over here. So Polaris is clearly not over your head. Well, Polaris is basically the same direction as the horizon. So in other words, there's no angle. It's 0 degrees. Well, what's the latitude of the equator? It's 0 degrees. So using Polaris as a tool to finding our latitude always works. Now, the thing we have to remember, though, is Polaris is only visible in the northern hemisphere. You can only see it if you're above the equator, north of the equator. So this is not going to work if you were in Australia or South America. Okay, so if you start at the equator and you travel northwards, Polaris is going to get higher and higher in the sky. When you're at the North Pole, Polaris is directly overhead. We call that the zenith. The zenith is just whatever is directly overhead. And if you start at the North Pole and we travel south, Polaris is going to get lower and lower in the sky until you're at the equator, where it's going to be straight in front of you, 0 degrees above the horizon. So here's another type of diagram that you might be shown on an assessment of some sort. And so what you'll notice is you have a couple of things here. So again, the zenith is the imaginary point that's 90 degrees above an object. When we're trying to find our latitude, out of these two angles, the one that's important is how far Polaris is above the horizon. So in this case, the person's latitude would be 42.5 degrees north.
Listen, you already made a big lie. Here's what Martin.
No, hold on.
Here's what Martin Luther said about Copernicus. He says, there is talk of a new astrologer who wants to prove the Earth moves and goes around instead of the sky, the sun, the moon, as if somebody were moving in a carriage or ship might hold, that he was standing still and the rest while he and the earth and the trees walked and moved. But that is how things are nowadays. When a man wants to be clever, he must needs invent something special. And the way he does it just needs to be best. The fool wants to turn the whole of the art of astronomy upside down. However, the Holy Scripture tells us, so did Joshua, tell the sun to stand still and not the earth. So Martin Luther was a Jesuit. He's clearly a flat earther. And
so did you guys catch this? Are you catching the point here? Martin Luther, who Santos is quoting as knowing that the earth was flat, was a Jesuit.
Martin Luther was a Jesuit. He's clearly a flat earther. And Martin Luther was a Jesuit. He's clearly a flat earther. And
so again, the Jesuit society are the ones trying to claim that the earth was flat, and they were the ones telling the plebes that the earth was flat, when all the highest quality academics and scientists in the field at the time knew for centuries and eons that the earth was not flat. And the ones that were saying that the earth was not flat, such as Giordano Bruno, were brutally murdered, tortured, and executed by the church and the Jesuit society, who were at the same time trying to convince the people that the earth was flat with their flat earth psyop and religious dogma crusades, such as Martin Luther, and the ones who were brutally murdered and executed and tried, like Galileo and Giordano Bruno and the others speaking out about that the earth was flat. They were the ones getting ridiculed and tried and murdered and executed for showing that the earth was not flat. Do you understand? Do you see this? The religious dogmatic church, the Jesuit society, are the ones that were trying to push the flat earth psyop onto the public.
And he was opposed, just as John Calvin said, we will see some who are so deranged, not only in religion, but also in things reveal their monstrous nature, that they will say that the sun does not move and that it's the earth which still shifts and turns. Calvin was laughing his head off at this fuckwit Jesuit and all their demonic global.
Yeah, because read from scripture and word of mouth and hearsay all you want. That is not science, Santos. That is pure religion. That is pure religious dogma. Quote whoever you want. Here, let me read a quote from Giordano Bruno for you, since you're such a fan.
Forget about Giordano Bruno. He was a Jesuit, and
I want the audience to know and to hear all sides of the information. I want them to hear for themselves. So, to comprehend the achievements of Giordano Bruno, the state of astronomical knowledge in the 16th century must be understood. Up to the time of Copernicus, Western Europe had accepted the Ptolemaic universe by that time. The Earth was a central ball, and I'm screen sharing here if you will accept the participant screen share so people can see it for themselves. The Earth was the central ball around which 7 transparent spheres glided according to the Ptolemaic model, carrying the moon, the sun, the 5 naked eye planets, an 8th sphere called the fixed stars. It would be fruitless to dwell in the picturesque. Okay, let's get to the Earth was motionless. The day and night were caused by the revolution of the heavens as opposed to the motion of the Earth itself. So their model was ass backwards, where they thought that the entire celestial heavens were moving and the Earth was stationary, what is the mechanism by which that would imaginably be possible? What mechanism would cause the entire celestial sphere to be moving and producing all of the observable phenomenon that we can now document and simply log, and we can observe for ourselves, including eclipses, day and night, seasons, axial precession of the equinoxes, axial tilt, axial precession, which includes precession of the polar stars, circumpolar stars, including southern, all on and on and on. I mean, we could go on and on and on. But so the ridiculousness that the entire celestial sphere would be somehow moving and doing all that, as opposed to simply everything else is stationary and the Earth is rotating. But let's see, where does Giordano Bruno came in there with this quote? He tore down the boundaries of the old system and envisioned something remarkably similar to the modern universe. For him, space was boundless, was filled with countless solar systems. He quoted, "There are innumerable suns and an infinite number of planets which circle around their suns, as our 7 planets circle around our sun. We do not see planets revolving around other stars because of their great distance or small mass. Bruno's universe had no center. In the universe, he wrote, there no center and no circumference exists, but the center is everywhere. Because, in other words, that's describing a sphere. There is the sphere, every point of the universe is the center. Elaborating upon this point, he remarked, as to us on the earth seems to be the center of the universe, so its inhabitants, its inhabitants of the moon will appear as such. Each world has its center, each has its up and down. These differences are to be assigned relatively. And in other words, there is no objective up and down in space. It is up and down is relative to your point in space. So in other words, you keep saying, oh, well, how does the water stay on the, he's upside down on the globe. Well, on a globe, every point is down because the center of mass is at the center of the object. So every point is down. So you're always on top of the globe, no matter which point on the globe you are. This is basic physics. This is basic science.
So again, in the previous presentation of the series, I've covered the Cranial Vault as the vault of heaven. And so again, this is going to come up here as well. The Cranial Vault and the vault of heaven is the ark or the arch of the covenant between the two hemispheres. The ark of the covenant that conjoins the two hemispheres, that oversees the two hemispheres. And again, this is referring to the human brain. And again, the triumvirate section, the triune brain of the base, the midsection, and the vault, or the cerebrum, which again is the tripartite of the problem, reaction, solution. The base being the reptilian the R complex, being the fight or flight response, the survival, which is the unconscious nature. It is the abyss, it is the base, the abysmal. And then the emotional complex, the mammalian complex, refers to the emotions, or in other words, the subconscious, the reaction, what gets us to respond to the problem. First, there is a problem. The emotional response is how we respond to that problem. And then we have the highest portion of the brain, which is the functional, the rationing, the reasoning, and the logic, which comes up with the solutions to the problem and the reaction to that problem. And thus we have the solution, the problem, reaction, solution. So we have the base, the abyss, the subconscious, the unconscious, the depths, the black of the abyss, the deep subconscious nature. Then we have the emotional complex. We have the conscious mind. And then we have the superconscious mind, which transcends rational thinking and which is inherent knowing, the source of all knowledge, the source of knowing. And again, as I showed earlier, how this also plays out and corresponds directly to the human physiology, to the body at large, being the root of the base of the spine, the root of the spine being the abyss, the depths, with the heart center, the heart chakra level being at the subconscious, being the emotional level, and then the crown being the illumination, the crown being the conscious or the superconscious, the capstone. So again, how this trinity plays out through every aspect of creation, from the physiology to the psychology to the theology and the mythology to the anatomy as well. So again, this is the pattern, this is the pater, the pattern of nature and the pattern of creation. And the pattern of structure, which again gives rise to the world pillar or the cosmic pillar, which in the human body is we see again as the image of the tree. And again, the tree is the trinity layers, the depths, the roots, or the root, or the abyss, the bottom, the base, and then the trunk being the support structure, the pillar, canopy being the branches, the illumination, the light. So you have the dark, the depths, the abyss, the underworld, ascending up into the heavens towards the light, from darkness into light, as all of nature and all of life goes. So as I briefly touched upon the tree of life and the tree of knowledge in the previous presentation of the series, again I will touch upon and expand a little bit further here as the tree of knowledge being the tree of your mind, the tree of your brain, the tree of your central nervous system. And this corresponds and correlates to the larger fractal portion, which is the tree of all of life in existence, the phylogenetic tree of life, which encompasses all of living organisms, even ones without a central nervous system or without the centralized tree of life within their own body, such as the human organism, which again, it's the central tree of life within the body, is your central nervous system. The dendritic patterns, which a dendrite comes from the root of pertaining to a tree. And the reason for this dendritic pattern of all of nature is that all of nature in this electric universe is electric. It is dendritic, meaning it follows the tree pattern. It is electric. Semitic interpretation of the unconscious is the Sheol, the underworld. The Hebrew Bible supports the descriptions of the Sheol, which suggest that it is something more than just a place. In terms of sheer numbers, of the amount of anthropomorphic descriptions is significant. Sheol is either portrayed by means of human qualities, as in Job 26:6, Canticles 8:6 as desire, and Isaiah 5:14, or it's attributed with the elements of the human anatomy, the womb. In addition, Psalm 49:15 praises the Elohim who are said to ransom one's soul from the hand of Sheol. Proverbs 27:20 acknowledges Sheol's insatiability, whereas Isaiah 5:14 depicts Sheol as a gargantuan monster. As such, it may have been borrowed from the Hebrews and incorporated into the early belief system. What is more, some scholars argue that Sheol, understood anthropomorphically, fits the semantic complex of the other ancient Near Eastern death deities, such as Nergal, Ereshkigal, and Mot. An Egyptian, Ma'at, is the goddess of the underworld, who is responsible for judging the souls of the dead against the scales of truth. She is truth and justice. She is the scales of balance. She is Libra, the kidneys in the body, which judge the balance between the underworld and the upper regions. The kidneys are the scales of balance between the underworld and the worlds above. Libra, at the direct midline, the balancing point between as above, below, and so below. So the Sheol is literally the she-hole, and this is not secular etymology here. Sheol doesn't actually come from she-hole, but it is related directly to the she-hole. It is referring to the goddess underworld, the underworld of the earth, the abyss, which is why the Sheol is a direct correlation to shale. When you look at the depictions of the Sheol, it is an oil reservoir beneath the ground. It is a reservoir of oil, which is where we get shale oil, and which is why we have shell oil, because it's an oil reserve within the underworld from the ground. So again, this is just a direct alliteration to the tomb of the earth, where we return to the dark womb of the earth. So you can believe whatever the hell you want to believe, but the ancient peoples, the ancient cultures, the ancient wisdom, they likened the sky to waters above, because in the nighttime, when you are observing the stars in the heavens above, the black sky, the black abyss above, is the exact same color and a mirror reflection of the dark waters, which reflects the black of the sky. So you have the black of the waters below and the black of the waters above. So they did not differentiate between the two. It's just a metaphor. It's an allegory. They are telling the story as if it is waters above, because the image of the night sky reflects exactly the image of the waters below on earth. From Latin firmamentum, literally meaning a support, a strengthening, which is a verb. To support, to strengthen, steadfast, enduring. It's translated Hebrew rakia, a word used of both the vault of the sky and the floor of the earth in the Old Testament. Literally expanse, from raka, meaning to spread out, as in her expanse, her gaping void, her holy hole, to spread out, spread eagle, which makes firm or makes you solid. She makes you firm, a support, a strengthening, to make strong. When she spreads out, when she spreads her expanse to you, it makes you firm or makes you solid. The firmament, which supports the vault of heaven, as I've covered in the last series, which you need to go back and understand how the vault of heaven is referring to the body, the various places as above, so below in the body, the sexual regions as well as the brain and the skull, the mind. So I want you to pay attention here. What you're looking at is, again, Jeb and Nut. And Jeb impregnates the sky. The earth impregnates the sky. So what you're looking at, again, is the world pillar, the cosmic pillar. A direct correspondence with the human skull. As depicted here, you have the human spine as the cosmic pillar, the world pillar, which supports the vault of heaven, the cranial vault. You have the cosmic pillar, the world pillar, which supports the cranial vault. So in other words, you have the omphalos of the world, which impregnates the cranial vault, which impregnates the sky. So you have the pillar which impregnates the sky. And again, as I showed a second ago, with the power symbol, again you have the phallic which impregnates the arch, the archway. The arch is feminine, the curve is feminine, the phallic is the pillar. So in the human body you have the diencephalon, the basal ganglia, which impregnates the neocortex, the human spine, which impregnates the vault of heaven. This is universal cosmology, the macrocosm of the microcosm within the macrocosm. This is the torus dynamic. Exact same story of a Greek mythology of Atlas, of the Titan Atlas, who is a personification of the mountains, who holds up or supports the celestial sphere. Hyginus emphasizes the primordial nature of Atlas by making him the son of Ether and Gaia. In other words, the son of space and earth, the pillar of support, the support structure of the celestial sphere above the sphere of the earth. Atlas's symbol is the globe, which is why we have the atlas, which is where we get the atlas bone of the spine, which is the atlas bone of the spine, which supports the globe of the skull, the microcosm of the macrocosm. The vault of heaven and the vault of heaven below the waist, below the belt. Which brings us to the Egyptian halls of Amenti, the underworld. Amenti. Ament is a person born an idiot, meaning crazy, from the suffix ment, of Latin mentum, which is added to verb stems, sometimes to represent the result or the product of the action. Ament, amentia, is a mental deficiency, from Latin amentia, meaning madness. Amentum, mad. Mentum, mind. And an ament is a person born an idiot, from Latin amentia. Amenti, the halls of madness, the halls of chaos of the underworld, of the dark abyss, the halls of ignorance, of chaos, of madness, of the underworld. Latin amentia, amentum, mad, from the root of men, to think or remember, which gives us mind, our mental. An ament is someone without the power of the mind. An ament, an idiot, a person born without the power of the mind, born an idiot. Amentia, madness of the underworld, of the madness, chaos of the abyss. I want to make mention that for most of you already know that the ancient Hebrews were actually so dumb that they literally believed that there were holes, the solid firmament of the sky, from which the rainwater actually came down through these holes from the waters above this solid dome, and that's what made it rain. That's how dumb these ancient Hebrews actually were, called the gate and called the windows of heaven. Whereas if you actually compare the ancient Hebrew conception of the universe to the human skull, then you actually start to get a clear picture as to that there is cerebrospinal fluid above the structure of the brain. There is cerebrospinal fluid which is separated by the firmament of the arachnoid layer that divides the cerebrospinal fluid from the cerebrospinal fluid in the base of the skull, or in the third and fourth ventricles where it's produced. And so this cerebrospinal fluid circulates throughout the body, as I will mention here further in the presentation. And there are literal gaps in this arachnoid layer. There are holes, there are windows of heaven from which the cerebrospinal fluid can escape outward, and it can escape into the superior sagittal sinus. But it does not come in through these windows of heaven, it escapes outward. And the cerebrospinal fluid circulates down through to the base of the spine, and then it circulates back up the spine. And what circulates this pump is pressure mediations of deep breathing and pressure mediations between hot and cold. And this is one of the key aspects for health. Earlier in the presentation, I mentioned that the lymph, the clear water, must be kept clean and pure in order to maintain a healthy state. Well, the same is true for the cerebrospinal fluid. It must be kept pure, and it must be kept clean and healthily circulated. This is why stretching and meditation and exercise is so important, as well as sweating and breath work, deep breath work, because these are the only things that circulate the lymph system, the lymphatic system, as well as the cerebrospinal fluid. Because both of these two crucial systems of water in the body do not have a circulatory system. They do not have their own pump system. They have to be pumped manually. Genetic blueprint required for the creation of So Below here on Earth, which corresponds to the Egyptian deity called Neph, or Kneph, which was also depicted as the winged egg. Looking at the ancient mythological and spiritual teachings of cosmology, we clearly understand we're all about and inspired by the cycles and movements of the heavens and planetary bodies above. With the aid of the electron microscope, we're now able to delve deeper within the intracellular structures of the human cell, and perhaps come to understand how these stories are reflected within the physiological processes of the human body, what we coin as astrophysiology. And again, it's the divine nature. This is the divine wisdom of the human temple. So most foundational creation myths or stories were founded upon the primordial creation springing forth from the golden egg, or the cosmic Orphic egg. The Hindus had several creation stories or creation myths, but one of their myths was that Brahma hatched forth from a golden egg. The Egyptians also had the original creation story was the primordial cosmic egg was laid on the primordial waters by the Bennu bird, which was an Egyptian rendition of the phoenix, and it became associated with the ibis, which this is actually the significance of the Vatican court of the pine cone today, which is the pine cone, or in other words, it's the acorn, the golden egg shaped, as I will cover here throughout the presentation. or which is the Ben stone, arising from the primordial waters of creation, which is why the overarching vault of heaven looms above the Ben stone, just as in the Egyptian goddess Nut looms over the Omphalos stone of Jeb, which is why the pine cone stone, the pineal stone, is surrounded by the Bennu birds, which are the peacocks. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, this is the golden egg is the significance of being the golden mean ratio. There are several mathematical ways to construct an egg, and one of those ways is using the phi golden ratio. So most every creation story has the golden egg, which is laid by the bird. This is the origin of the story of the goose laying the golden egg. Again, the Egyptian creation myth of the Bennu bird, which laid the golden egg upon the primordial waters, which is the story of human life. The human also emerges forth from the cosmic egg, which is surrounded by the primordial waters. We are surrounded by the amniotic sac, which is our primordial egg, our cosmic golden egg. So we hatch forth from the cosmic egg, surrounded by the primordial waters of the birth of the new life. So the golden egg is the mathematical ratio, the phi ratios, which actually include the sizes, the circumference, the radius of the Earth to Moon ratio, which is the Pythagorean triangle, which is known as the Earth-Moon egg. To quote Richard Merrick, things like the Earth-Moon system matches the geometry of a hen's egg in that both are a containment property of the golden mean. Knowledge of this cosmic egg geometry was apparently well known in the ancient world. The ancient Egyptian fable of the goose that laid the golden egg speaks this wisdom in philosophical terms long before Aesop wrote his fables. The Great Pyramid of Khufu made it real. This triangular building was once a temple to the mathematics of the Earth-Moon-Egg system, celebrating the golden mean in nature for all to see. The Egyptians knew that this divine proportion contained everything and all things originated from it, bringing the world into a fine balance for life to evolve. The order out of the chaos, cosmos out of chaos. And people like Chiron Last falsely associate this to crazy assumptions and ridiculous beliefs, where it's actually the mathematical ratios, the golden egg ratio, the golden mean ratio of the Earth to Moon, the Pythagorean triangle, which was also incorporated the mathematics and the size ratios, the schematic ratios of the Great Pyramid of Giza, which also contained within it the ratios of phi and pi, and everything from the speed of light to the size, the circumference of the Earth, as well as the ratios of the sun to the moon, and all of these cosmic numbers, which I would love to include the clip from the revelation of the pyramids to display all of these mathematics to you, because the math is not my specialty. Victor Schauberger created implosion impeller inventions based upon this phi pentagonal golden egg.
Victor set to work to build a machine that would produce good drinking water artificially. It would copy the natural processes of bubbling mountain spring water. His first plan for a water purifier developed into this egg-shaped apparatus for what became known as biosynthesis. In this process, small amounts of trace minerals and carbon dioxide are added to the water, which is then energized in darkness, set into a harmonious spiral motion by the specially shaped agitator. The dynamics of the water flow are simplified in this diagram. A cooling coil provides the temperature control, and the vessel is enclosed in an insulating shell to contain the implosion energy within. The egg shape, another of nature's secrets, was chosen by Victor as a perfect form for a vortex chamber. An egg has a perfect curve for sustaining the momentum of a vortex within it. A central theme of Victor's thinking was a cycloid space curve, observed in the motion of the planets as they orbit around the sun, while at the same time spinning on their own axes. They move in open spirals, or eggways, as Victor called them. The spiral pipe incorporates this characteristic. It is conical and generally egg-shaped, except for an inner bend which causes the water to roll inwards, as shown in Victor's egg geometry. Word soon spread that Victor Schauberger could make living water, and people streamed to his home to try it. with excellent results. He became known as the water magician. The vitality of water can be measured by its electrical potential. Every drop manifests an electromagnetic field, as does every body on Earth. The structure of moving water consists of layers, and from the outside layer towards the center, there is an increased density and an increase in electrical potential,
which the egg is associated to the menstruation. So this is a crucial aspect of this presentation, is the ophis and the ovum. The ovum is the egg, the oval, the ovoid, which is a three-dimensional egg shape, is called an ovoid. In other words, an ovoid. The oval of the goddess Yoni, of the cosmic Yoni. The ovum, the oval, the ovoid, the ovary, the monthly cycle of the moon and the menses, the menstruation, which is why the moon holds sway over the cosmic waters, over the tides of the earth, over the primordial waters of the goddess, which again the oval comes from the Vesica Pisces, the goddess vagina, the cosmic yoni. And again, the golden egg contains the golden mean spiral because it is constructed using the phi ratio, the pentagonal ratio of phi, which is the goddess, the 5, the number 5, the pentalpha of the goddess. So this brings us back to the serpent and the egg and the ovary, which is the serpent mound, the primordial mound of the goddess, and the cosmic egg, the serpent eating the egg, or the serpent swallowing the egg, which is the fallopian tube, swallowing the ovary, which is the ovary. The ovum comes from the ovary, comes down the fallopian tube, just as the serpent consumes the egg, which is the exact depictions from the Garden of Eden, the serpent holding the egg, or the golden apple, the golden egg, which he gives to the goddess. So it's about the goddess and the creation, the fertility of life, the creation of life. The serpent and the egg, the sperm and the egg, the sperm and the ovum, which is the power symbol, the phallic and the feminine, the sperm and the egg, which is why the serpent guards the sacred fruit, the fruits of life, the egg of life. And so this, again, we can bring this exactly microcosmically into the body. Once again, in a different way, is that the serpent represents the human spinal column. And that human spinal column, the Kundalini serpentine energy ascends up the spinal column to the pineal gland inside the center of the skull, which the spinal column is the column which holds up the cosmic, which is the cosmic pillar. And the golden egg lies in the center of your brain, the thalamus, or the diencephalon, or the putamen, the putamen. So again, remember from the part 2 presentation where I depicted the ganglia, or the basal ganglia, being the aureus serpent. So again, this is why the spinal column and the egg, the serpent, the ophis and the ovum, the spinal column and the thalamus within the brain, which again, this is a summation of everything that I've shown in this presentation. And again, this is the significance of the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, or Osiris climbing the ladder to heaven, and Jacob ascending the ladder to heaven, where he comes face to face with God and is names this place Peniel, or Pineal. Because again, this is the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, where he ascends the ladder, where he climbs the spinal ladder to heaven and attains the golden egg laid by the golden goose. And then he returns to earth with the golden egg, the golden mean ratio, the creation of life, bringing forth of life into matter. And how Jack is the same as Jacob, the Jack, the Jacob, Yaakov. So this is the very same story as Jacob's ladder, as Jacob who ascends the ladder to heaven, just as Osiris ascends the ladder to heaven, which again I've covered the Jacob's Ladder story in the previous presentation of the series. All of these myths, these stories, the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics show the cosmic turtle swimming through the vortex of time, through the wormhole into the next dimension for the rebirthing of the turtle into the next Olympics. So it's the universal cosmic turtle, this ancient turtle. And I also enjoy real esoteric and real occult information, or real factual information, and I like to take things truthfully, and I like to hold them up to scrutiny, because if it is true, it fears no investigation, and it holds up to scrutiny. So while we're on the topic of the cosmic turtle, and so this relates to, there is a myth theme that goes around involving the fact that a turtle is the actual symbol of the in the Mayan calendar tracking of the measurements of time based upon the cycles of the moon. And so there is an image, I don't know who made this image, but this theme goes around all over the New Age community. So it was Jose Arguelles who had proposed this information from the Mayan calendar and from the indigenous peoples as being, once again, that the memory of the 13 moons has been released from the turtle's back. 1 turtle scale for each moon, 13 perfect moons of 28 days each, 4 phases of the moon, 4 perfect weeks of 7 days to every moon, 13 perfect moons, 52 perfect weeks, 364 days, plus 1 day out of time every year. This was the perfect wisdom of the turtle's 13 scales. Was the 1320 tracking of time, whereas today our modern sexagesimal system from the Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, Chaldeans is a 1260 measure of time. And so this is an important lesson that everyone needs to learn here, is how to discern truthful information that you find online. Especially, this would go around all over Instagram and all over Facebook and, all over Twitter, because it's an image. It's a meme. And the problem is people don't know how to discern truthful information by fact-checking it. And so, so the problem is this is an artistic rendering. This is an arbitrary drawing. Someone drew this because they wanted it to represent the Mayan calendar of the 28 days of a month cycle, represented by the outer segments of the turtle's shell, and also representing the 13 months, or the 13 moons out of a year, from the true Mayan Zolkin calendar. And so, so in order to determine whether this is true, you can't take the truth from an arbitrary artist's drawing as being actually representative of reality. You have to take this and let's actually look at a real turtle shell and compare the artist's rendering, see if it holds true. So when we count the outer segments of the turtle shell, we find that it only ever adds up to at maximum 24 or 25 outer segments. So it's not 28 segments like it shows in the artist's drawing. They are trying to mislead you. They are trying to deceive you by making it what they want it to be, and that's not how it is in reality. All turtle shells only have 24 to 25 outer segments. So here's one image. You can count, we'll find another image. You can even check the actual anatomical, biological diagrams, and you can check it. And so look up any other real turtle shell. You'll find that they only ever have 24 to 25 outer segments. But they do have the 13 inner segments, so that is true. But the problem is they're trying to make the truth fit their subjective perception, and that's not how it works. So you can verify from any other independent image of an actual turtle shell, and they will all, from multiple different sources, multiple different species from different locations of the world, and they all include only 24 to 25 outer segments. They don't add up to 28 segments. It's just not how it is in nature. So we can't make the objective truth of nature try to fit to our, arbitrary theories. And so that's not how to get to the truth. Although I did want to cover that. I wanted to explain that because, the cosmic turtle is the symbol of time. And the reason why the cosmic turtle is associated with the symbol of the cosmos and the symbols of time and eternity in artistic renderings as well as mythological, such as the Mayan and the Eastern Buddhist cosmologies and the Hindu cosmologies, the reason why the cosmic turtle is associated with the symbol of eternity and time is because the turtle is an ancient one. It is one of the ancient creatures, because the turtle is literally one of the longest living creatures on planet Earth. It, aside from actual, from trees and things like that, but the turtle is one of the longest living animals on Earth. It lives for well over 100 years, well over 150 years. The sea turtles, they live, and the giant tortoises, they live extremely long lives because of their slow metabolisms. And the gorgeous giant leatherback sea turtle is one of the largest. It can grow up to the size of a small Volkswagen or a Mini Cooper. And so that is why the cosmic turtle is literally one of the symbols of infinity, one of the symbols of time and primordial existence, is the symbol of longevity. And so to the ancients, they thought that they equated the earth and the cosmology to the turtle swimming through the cosmic sea. So they equated the turtle as representing the land, the earth itself, the primordial island amidst the abyss, the cosmic. So again, we covered this in Symbols of Power Part 3, where I showed you the symbolism of never-ending story of Morla, the Ancient One, where they show her sacred primordial mound, which comes from the ancient Egyptian creation story of the Ben stone, arising from the primordial cosmic waters of the Nu, which represented, in actuality, it represented the city of Heliopolis, the city of the sun, or On. And so it was representative, and so this is the same mythology, the same cosmology of the Mayans and of the Eastern Buddhists, of the world turtle. Again, the primordial cosmic mound, the primordial earth mound, arising out of the waters, because the back of the sea turtle is seen peeking or poking out of the primordial ocean, the primordial abyss of the waters of the ocean, likened to the cosmos itself, to a larger image of existence or of creation itself, because the turtle literally looked like the land that they walk upon. How the turtle literally looks like the earth itself. It looks like a continent arising out of the blue water surrounding it, through the ocean of the cosmos, the ocean of space. And so of course this doesn't in any way attribute itself to flat earth cosmology, because the flat earthers literally believe that there is no space, and so it's not that the earth was carried on the back of a turtle. That's a complete misperception and a complete misinterpretation. It's not that they saw the flat earth was carried on the back of a turtle swimming through space. It's that the back of the turtle was the earth swimming through space. It's that the back of the turtle is literally the surface of the earth. What I'm completely discovering and showing you here is that the the older the turtles get, they get this thick algae and a thick patina carried on their carapace, and that is representative of the continent or of the surface of the earth, of the land of the earth itself, of the horizon of the earth. So it's that the shell, the carapace of the turtle is the earth. It's not that the earth is carried on the back of a turtle, it's that the back of the turtle is the earth. So you see the complete distinguishing characteristics here that I'm completely discovering and showing you, is that they likened, and of course this is just the story, this is just the myth. The actual advanced ancients that had very advanced technology and very advanced knowledge of the plotting the grids of the pyramidal grids of the earth and the ley lines of the earth, and literally circumnavigating the globe. They circumnavigated from South America to Easter Island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, tracked those lines, directly aligned them to Gunung Padang in Malaysia, Sukhothai, Thailand, Cambodia, Angkor Wat. All these other various different sacred sites and temples all over the globe were strategically aligned to certain latitudes. So they had very advanced mathematical knowledge of how to circumnavigate the globe and to travel across continental. So there were a select few people who knew how to do that. And this was probably a much more advanced civilization, predating all of this cosmology that we're talking about in the stories of the primordial turtle, the cosmic turtle, and the flat earth and all of that stuff, because none of this was actually a flat earth cosmology. That is just very recent, in recent time.
And between Mohenjo Daro and Easter Island. The distance between Easter Island and Giza is 10,000 times the golden number. The distance between Angkor and Giza multiplied by the golden number equals the distance between Giza and Nazca. And the Giza-Nazca distance multiplied by the golden number equals the Nazca-Angkor distance. As surprising as this seems, it ties in with some earlier discoveries about the pyramids. In the 20th century, an astronomer and priest, Moreau, showed the meridian passing through the Great Pyramid divided the land of the Earth into two equal surfaces, making Giza the central point on the planet. 20 centuries before him, Agatharchides argued that the Great Pyramid was the geographic reflection of the Earth. And the length of the two sides of the Great Pyramid was also the average distance a point on the equator moves through space in 1 second.
This is a given in physics, indicating the speed of the rotation of our planet on its axis.
Every aspect of the Great Pyramid is stuffed with significant numbers that connect to the world.
These vast, much more advanced, much more ancient civilizations that predated even that, they had a knowledge far beyond this. This is just what the lay people, like the flat earthers, are going around stories that they're repeating to each other, because that's what they happened to see by observing the images of nature while they were seafaring. But the actual people who had the knowledge of how to circumnavigate the globe, they probably didn't ascribe to any of these cosmologies. It was just an allegory that people likened the world turtle to looking like the continents, swimming amidst the vast sea of the ocean.
This wasn't cryptic. This wasn't something incredibly esoteric, because they openly admitted this during the closing ceremony. They very accurately described what the symbols mean, what the ritual was meaning. They described that they're now showing the graphic animation of the cosmic turtle passing through the vortex of time, and they also described this. They openly, the announcers on the mainstream news, they said, they openly announced, the turtle is passing through the gateway into the next dimension, basically the next dimension was representing the next next Olympics. I forget when the next Olympics is, 2022? Or no, the Winter Olympics is every 2 years, so that was 2020 Olympics. So that's what they said. They openly, describe that, and that's accurate. So now we're coming to the point where symbolism and the meanings of these things are becoming so overt that it's no longer has to remain so cryptic. And that's the point of explaining esoterica and the real meanings of symbolism, where it arises from, what the meanings come from.
what they're meant to represent in their truest, most objective form, which is what we find in nature itself. Not that's what all of these fake Christian YouTube channels are out to destroy. They're out to completely obfuscate and fabricate all these fake Christian meanings based upon fear and sensationalism so that they can get a ton of subscribers and a ton of hits and a ton of ad revenue based on sensationalism and fear and complete false information, complete garbage. And people swallow it up and they eat it up. This guy's got like 700,000 subscribers. They take that as being credible. Well, because it's already meeting the needs of their own preconceived confirmation bias. Because they wanted to promote that stuff so that it can be used as an excuse for them to completely shut it all down, including the real stuff like my channel and other channels like mine that actually provide hard, solid, factual, real, high-quality information. So in other words, they used it as a scapegoat to lump all of the good content in with that garbage content and to mix it all together to muddy the waters, to poison the well, essentially, with the poison the well logical fallacy. And so that they can just completely throw the entire baby out with all that toilet water, with all that, garbage infested bathwater that it has become. So yeah. And so the Vesica Piscis symbol on the unitards of the neophyte who is the one who was responsible for the specific task of the rebirthing, the one who was shouting, "The rebirthing!" It is time! It is time to return! The rebirthing! So the one who was responsible for the rebirthing on that acolyte, his unitard is entirely symbolic and dedicated to that purpose, that ritual of the rebirth, and I will explain that here in a second. Is also the symbol of the turtle. And it is cryptic, of course, but it is also the symbol of the turtle. And of course, the Vesica Piscis as well itself is the symbol of the gateway or the portal. The portal of, again, as I've already shown and illustrated throughout the presentation and throughout all of my films, the portal, the gateway, the entryway between realms. So of course, that is why they're showing, the unitard is showing the symbolism of the turtle as the portal and the gateway, as well as the sexual magic and the sexual alchemy, which we've also covered in the full Symbols of Power Part 3 and Part 2 films as well, is again, it is showing the penetration of the Vesica Piscis at the very center. It's showing the phallic penetration of the Vesica Piscis, of the yoni. And of course, with the crude version of the Ouroboros surrounding it, which again is this very symbolic artwork of the time and of the symbolism of the ancient cosmic turtle, symbolism of the universe. Which the Ouroboros is the symbol of the universe. The symbol, literally the symbol of rebirth, of resurrection. And again, we explain that in Symbols of Power Part 2. The serpent, the symbol of shedding your skin and being reborn unto oneself. It is the symbol of the serpent which encircled the Earth, the Milky Way galaxy, the celestial sphere, as we viewed it from our vantage point on Earth, as I covered fully in the Symbols of Power Part 3 film, once again. So just to clarify that. So one of the older versions of the cosmic serpent, or the Ouroboros, comes from the Old Norse mythology of Jormungandr, who was the Midgard serpent, the giant serpent or the dragon who encircled the earth once again. And he was, again, we covered this fully in Symbols of Power Part 3 as the significance of the serpent of the abyss in the seas, which again is the symbolism of the Milky Way galaxy swimming the seas of the ocean. But I've made a highly important and highly significant original discovery about another significant meaning, which is not just the Milky Way galaxy, but again, the Norse people are the Arctic Circle in the northernmost latitudes, literally representative of the Aurora Borealis. So I have coined my own original interpretation of the Aurora Borealis, borealis. In other words, the cosmic serpent of the seen in the skies. And also in the mythologies attributed as the serpent of light. In other words, not just the lights of the Milky Way galaxy against the black abyss or the sea of the night sky, but also the actual legitimate serpent of light, the green dragon. And it should also be noted here that Ouroboros comes from Greek ora, which means tail, and bora, which means to eat or to devour. So essentially it literally means tail devouring. But also oro or aura is as well also means glow or halo, in other words light. So it's got a esoteric double or multiple layered meaning here of aurora borealis, literally meaning the northern glow, the northern lights. So this ties in and is directly relevant on multiple layers and multiple levels. So it's entirely relevant, not just tail devouring, but literally the serpent of light, the glowing northern serpent, which is as I showed in the slide is where Tolkien derives his Norse linguistics and his Norse mythology of Smaug, the fire drake from the north. As in the northern dragon seen sailing through the skies. The Arctic Circle of the Earth, around the circumpolar regions of the Earth, as well as the South Pole as well, because the huge significant original correlations here is that Dr. Donald Scott for the Thunderbolts Project has done massive original research and groundbreaking work surrounding the electric cosmology and the plasma physics of the Birkeland currents, which literally enter and they charge the ionosphere of planetary bodies and of planets and stars as well, because these planetary celestial bodies, they are charged by these electric Birkeland currents and filaments, which counter-rotate and enter and exit in throughout the torus field of these planets, such as seen in the thermography or the electric imaging of the North Pole of Saturn, which is literally, again, the aurora borealis, the auroric serpent, seen encircling the North Pole of the planet, being charged by these electric Birkeland currents, or in other words, these cosmic serpents, these electric filaments which charge the planetary bodies, which were so significant to the ancient peoples, especially to the mythology and to the legends, having sincere scientific basis.
Donald Scott presented new, groundbreaking evidence of the electromagnetic connection between the Earth and the Sun. The electric universe theory states that the Sun is in essence an electrical discharge phenomenon, powered by electric currents flowing along the arm of the galaxy. Electrical circuitry connects the Sun and all planets, including the Earth, driving climate, weather, and Earth's auroras. The telltale sign of Birkeland currents at the poles of planets is counter-rotational motions in atmospheric phenomena. Today, Dr. Scott discusses the new visual evidence that Birkeland currents from the Sun are the cause of Earth's auroras.
The Earth-Sun connection, which of course is, I think, the primary, basic, foundational idea of the electric universe, at least historically, that I presented I thought a mind-blowing video, a NASA video, showing exactly that happening at the North Pole of Saturn. One of the things that kind of bugs me a little bit is that astronomers are reluctantly agreeable to talking about Birkeland currents when it comes to the Earth. Another NASA video, this time of the planet Jupiter, everybody's big brother planet there. And sure enough, just blatantly, there was these counter-rotating cylindrical, when you look at them, down at them, at the North Pole of Jupiter, they're circular, of course.
Concentric rings, these concentric circles of Birkeland filaments, of Birkeland currents, electric currents of magnetic fields of flux or force, has also been well documented way back in I believe it was the 1920s by world-renowned Dr. Walter Russell. And before you go writing this man off, you should know that the great world-renowned Nikola Tesla, could be considered the grand wizard of electrical engineering. He had said of his good friend, Walter Russell, that his work was so profound that it should be locked away for 1,000 years because the world simply was not ready for it and could not accept it. Who came across all of this information by direct experience, by basically what he calls a cosmic illumination experience, basically a moment being spent in, literally, quote-unquote, in the light of gnosis during a conscious awakening experience, basically a revelation, a divine illumination that he experienced alone in the woods one day. And it sounds crazy, I know, but with how in-depth and how extensive the amount of work that he's done is just absolutely. So without rambling on, his inert gas rings and his models of his illustrations and models of light waves and of inert gas rings and of the visible light spectrum as well is the exact same match as well as Dr. John Searle's of the Searle effect generator, the SEG, which also is the exact, is coincidentally, quote-unquote, is the exact same model that follows this electrical universal flux field of energy that produces everything that we... And of course we find this on the microcosmic scale with the cross-section of human DNA as well. Again, the filamentary currents, the DNA helix, the cosmic serpent. And, you know, without going too deep, this is going to open up a whole Pandora's box. I've literally got entire presentations written on just this, and this is a segment I can do a separate video entirely dedicated to, and I need to, because now we're going to have to open up into the entire thing, rehashing again all the stuff about the Cosmic Serpent. Once again, as we fully covered in Symbols, that's what all of Symbols of Power Part 2 is all about. And Symbols of Power, most of Symbols of Power Part 3, that's what it was all about as well. So, you know, this is going to get it all the way back into the entire history and symbolism of the Cosmic Serpent once again, which is the largest mytheme and the largest motif in existence. It is literally the alpha and the omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end, encompassing everything and nothing simultaneously, literally the entire structure of existence itself. So that's why it's so vast, and you know, we can't make a whole other presentation on that right now. But I will be including some more on that here in just a moment.
See the clockwise movement here and out here? It'll happen again. When it gets closer, they take another shot of it. Closer to the United States, that is. Okay, notice these clouds sweeping up? There's plenty of counter rotation. Way up in the atmosphere, way high up. See any counter rotation? You betcha. And there's also, well, I'll see it in a second. There is a Diacotron Instability there just off the south tip of Tasmania in one of those. If you go down deeper into the atmosphere, the circularity begins to lose its beautiful symmetry. It begins to get crunched and smooshed. And in fact, you go down deeper and deeper, and the land masses begin to interrupt those flows, which tells me one thing. The counter rotation, the beautiful circularity, comes from outside, not inside the Earth. There's nothing to do with stuff going around inside this molten center of the Earth or whatever. It's a diacotron instability between this clockwise and this counterclockwise flow.
So this, yet again, does not apply to flat Earth, once again. So this is the most accurate description and depiction of the mythology directly relating to the cosmology and to the actual hard science. And we will go so much deeper into this in another full presentation that I have prepared about the occult secrets and the true meanings of Lucifer. And so we will get so much deeper into all of that, as well as this was originally a piece prepared. I wasn't going to release this in something as trivial as this video is here about something like the satanic mock ritual. I was going to save this for something very profound and a much more comprehensive and more important work. But I want to release it. I want to release this
here, but I wanted to save it for something much more profound and something much more significant than a video like this, because it's such a huge piece and such an original discovery that needs to be preserved for something with much more meaning. But we'll get much deeper into that in future presentations. This was originally reserved for another version of the Symbols of Power series, which was originally my Mysterious Origins of Viruses presentation, which you wonder how the hell it could possibly fit into something like that, but it gets into a very long synchronistic train, so it ends up being a huge part of that as well. But it's also a big part that ends up syncing with my Lucifer presentation, but we'll get all into that in some time in the future. Okay, so we had just covered the significance of the connection to the sun with the Ouroboros, or the world cosmic serpent, and again through the symbolism and the actual science of Birkeland currents. Yet again, the connections to the sun run very deep with the cosmic serpent, or with the Ouroboros symbolism. So this goes all the way back to ancient Egyptian symbolism of the Ouroboros serpent, basically the sun disk. And I could go so deep. I mean, this opens up a can. I could go so deep into the symbolism of why it's the solar disk, and why it's the halo, it's the halos, and the entire etymology and symbolism of the sun, and the ring of light, and the halo, and the enlightenment, and the corona, and the crown, and the keren, and the crown of thorns, and the crown of horns, and the solar enlightenment, the aura, the aureos, the aureola, the laureate, why you wear the crown of the sun, the crown of the halo, the crown of the king, on and on and on. But I mean, that will open up a whole can. So that will be entirely covered in future entire full films on its own, as well as will be written so much more as basically the whole theme of my books coming out. And the first images of the Ouroboros being associated to the Eye of Ra, or in other words, the Eye of Horus. Such again, as we covered in Symbols of Power Part 2, is the significance of both the serpent and the eye. And this again brings us back to the North Pole of Saturn, and the Ouroboros, or the cosmic serpent, being symbolized as the world serpent, the Aurora Borealis, on the North Pole of Saturn, surrounding literally what is the cosmic eye, or the Eye of Ra. Because in ancient Egyptian theology or cosmology, Ra was actually attributed to Saturn, not necessarily the sun, or what we would call Sol, Greek Helios. In other words, our current, our orange or white sun in the sky. And this, of course, brings us into the huge subject, which is a central theme to many of my full videos and full presentations, and many of my previous articles and presentation works, revolving around the revelations of Immanuel Velikovsky, as well as the subsequent Thunderbolts project, and David Talbot's The Saturn Myth, as well as a good friend and colleague of his, Wallace Thornhill, and the entire Thunderbolts cosmology project, which again, my work ties heavily into adding much more mythology and much more symbolism and ancient cosmology and theology to that body of works that they have provided, which dovetails entirely in with that. But so, to not rehash too much of that information, this gets us back into all of that entire theme of the ancient Saturn as being the best sun, being overthrown by our modern sun, or what we now know as Sol, Helios, which were confused between being Saturn and the sun as we know it today. And I've covered in numerous videos and presentations as to why that is, and the real reason as to why that is could have also been, being a central sun within our solar system as well. Beyond all of that is the actual universal truth, and the reason behind that being, it's the duality of the sun, the two suns, the two brothers, the two twins between Horus and Set, the light sun and the dark sun, the white sun and the black sun, that overthrow and overturn one another, which is the symbolism of the ancient Egyptian Ouroboros as being half white, half black. It basically a Western rendition of the yin-yang, which itself is a rendition of the Taurus dynamic, which, as we covered in the beginning of this film. So it's again a rehashing of that twin duality polarity dynamic that reverses polarity and it flips, and it reverses axial polarity and it flips on itself. As we experience every seasonal year on a macrocosmic scale as the sun, as this ruled by the sun and ruled by the black sun of Saturn as winter. So in other words, we're talking about the duality of the bicycle of the year, summer and winter, the oak king and the holly king. And so now you understand why the night king, the king of the winter season, is the horned one, is the horned god. Two brothers that, or the two sisters, the red queen and the white queen, that overthrow, and they always struggle and they fight with one another, Jacob and Esau, on and on and on. These dualities between all, encompassed in all of the mythologies and all of the archetypal stories and theologies the world over. Quote from some of David Talbot's works here, and as well as many of the ancient historians also attribute, such as Hyginus in listing the planets' names, first Jupiter, then the planet of Sol, others say of Saturn, or a Greek ostracon cited by the eminent classicist Franz Boll identifies Egyptian sun god Ra, not with our sun, but with the planet Saturn. This repeated the confusion of the sun and Saturn, which seems to make no sense at all, and which the Babylonians, the founders of astronomy, identified as the exemplary light of heaven, the sun god Shamash. Shamash is the planet Saturn, the astronomical texts say. In archaic copies of Plato's Timaeus, the word for the planet Saturn is Helios, the sun god. Popular Greek traditions identified Saturn as Kronos, alter ego of Helios, and Kronos is said to have ruled over the pole. The Popol Vuh, lauded as the Mayan Bible, attests to the same idea. The natives of Mexico recall that prior to the present age, an exemplary sun ruled the world, but this was not the sun of today. His name was Quetzalcoatl, or in other words, the feathered serpent, the plumed serpent. And particularly Quetzal literally means long green feather, particularly because it comes from the Quetzal bird, known for its long green feathers, and this is why Quetzalcoatl is attributed to the color green, or turquoise green, the direct correlation with the aurora borealis, as I call it, the aurora, the green glow, the green halo, the green ring of light of the northern lights. And of course, Quetzalcoatl, or also Aztec correspondent as Kukulkan, is attributed to the resurrected god, the resurrected deity, the rebirthing, the reborn. Again, the serpent aspect of resurrection and rebirth, which is why the Quetzal bird is literally the South American attribution of the Asian and the Western version of the phoenix, the bird of resurrection, the long feathered-tailed bird, which is seen flying as the feathered dragon, flying through the sky, flying through the air. Once again, corresponding directly with the aurora borealis and the cosmic serpent as well. So, on many scales and many aspects, this is universal truth. The unbelievable synchronicity here is that Aztec word, the equivalent of Quetzal, is Aztec kukul, meaning feather, once again. So, and this is no coincidence as to why, according to what I am going to be breaking down in many of my future presentations and articles and books and everything, is this huge science that I'm decoding of onomantia, which is where your name literally determines the characteristics and the qualities that correlate with your life and your personality, the characteristics of who you are and what you achieve and what you become in life. Is there's a direct two-way correspondence between that resonance of the word and of the name with the actual events that occur and what becomes of you in life, such as the example of August Kekule, or in other words, August Kukul, is famously known for his discovery of atomic structure, of the benzene molecular structure, when he took a nap by his fireplace while he was frustrated looking for answers as to the structure of this chemical compound of benzene. And while dreaming, he explored the image of atoms working together and eventually appearing to move and writhe like snakes or serpents in his vision. Suddenly, one of the snakes grabbed its tail in his mouth, prompting Kekule to awaken. This vision of the Ouroboros in atom form inspired Kekule to continue working out his equations until he was able to prove the form of the benzene molecule. And so again, his name was Kekule. Kukul
which is literally the feathered, the green serpent, the feathered Aztec serpent, Kekul and Kukul. And we will get so much deeper into this in my future presentation, breaking down the KKK and the elongated skulls and so much more about the grand wizardry of the KKK, white supremacy, and you could wonder how this and Kek and so much more, and Kuk and so much more that goes in with that. It's an incredibly astonishing presentation, and I'm almost finished with that. It's been almost finished for several years now. I haven't been able to complete that, but we'll get so much deeper into that in future books, films, presentations, what have you. Future, and we have covered in previous presentations, is again Quetzalcoatl, the plumed serpent, is the ring, the halo around the sun, of the corona of the sun, the ring of light. Again, the halo, the halos, literally means a ring of light around a sun or a star. And so this is again the feathers, the plumes of the solar corona, the crown of the king of heaven, the crown of the sky. Again, the keren, the Hebrew keren, comes from, literally means horn, and it's the root word for crown. So in other words, the crown of horns, and it's the root word that gives us Kronos, Greek Kronos, corona, coronae, coronation, on and on and on. The root words of QRN, keren, which gives us corn, the hardened upper, keratin, the root substance of the hardness of the horn, which is rooted at the hardest part of the head, which is the top of the head, which is what literally a corn means. It means the hardest part, where the crown literally means the top or the uppermost part of the head. So this is why we have the crown of horns, the crown of thorns, the corona, the ring of light, the halo of halos, which halos literally means this, which means the sun. It means it's a halide, it's a solar gas. And the Maya maintained essentially the same idea, calling the primeval sun god Huracan, who was a one-legged serpent deity, equivalent to Greek Typhon, which was the typhoon. The serpent deity of chaos and destruction, of primordial waters. In other words, a huracan as hurricane. Again, the cosmic serpent, the cosmic Birkeland currents, which turn and whirl the world about on its axis. Tiamat in half, made from her ribs the vault of heaven and earth, and from this her tail became the Milky Way, the serpent tail of the Milky Way, which, as I will show here, the Milky Way, the dark rift, the gape, the gap, the gaping void of the great goddess of the womb, of the sky, of the abyss, is also the serpent goddess, the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, the rainbow serpent, which lies above. In Chaos Conf, the motifs of other mythologies linked directly or indirectly to the Tiamat myth, including Greek tradition of Apollo's slaying of the python. And this ties in exactly to the Greek mythology, which comes from the Egyptian mythology, the bark of Ra, who battles with the serpent monster Apophis, the chaos monster, in order for the rule of the cosmos, the order to emerge from the chaos of the cosmos. In the Greek myth of Zeus battling the serpent monster Typhon for the rule of the cosmos, when Zeus slayed Typhon, the serpent monster of chaos, and defeated, Typhon is cast down into Tartarus by the angry Zeus. The serpent water god Typhon, where we get the typhoon, the water storm of destruction. Hercules, who slays the Hydra. The clash of the Titans, referring to the primordial chaos, a cataclysmic era in the past of when the planets were according to Immanuel Velikovsky, were worlds in collision. The planets were in conflict, and vast electrical discharges being emitted between the two, the time of great cataclysm. And this relates to the field of cymatics, which is the sound resonance, where particles within a medium will vibrate at specific rates, at specific frequencies, and will achieve exceedingly increasing rates of higher order. But those periods of order have to transition through periods of chaos. And this is likely what happens in planetary solar systems throughout the universe, is when they enter energetic resonances of higher order, the particles, the planets within this medium will engage through periods of chaos until they achieve higher magnitudes of order or higher structure of order through those periods of chaos. The name Tiamat is a cognate for the word sea,
Tiamat has also been claimed to be cognate with the Northwest Semitic Tehom, meaning the deeps, abyss, in the book of Genesis. Robert Graves considered Tiamat's death by Marduk as evidence for his hypothesis of an ancient shift in power from a matriarchal society to the later patriarchal society. Graves' ideas were later developed into the Great Goddess theory. Theory suggests that Tiamat and other ancient monster figures were presented as former supreme deities of peaceful, woman-centered religions that were turned later into monsters when violent. In other words, they were later demonized and cast down. Their defeat at the hands of the male hero corresponded to the manner in which male-dominated religions overthrew an ancient peaceful society. In Greek mythology, Poseidon sent the sea monster, the sea serpent monster, Cetus, who was defeated by Perseus, who Perseus slayed the serpent sea monster. He slayed the kraken, the monster of the deep waters. And so this is how, yet again, the eye associated to light and enlightenment, and the eye associated with the sun is via what's known as the sundog, which is where the light refracts in a 360-degree spherical manner around as a halo around the sun, due to the level of ice crystals in the atmosphere. And so again, we have the sun associated to the light and so associated with enlightenment, and literally the eye of God, or the eye of the sun, which contains the cosmic eye within its core, as the god Hurricane, the eye of God, the eye of Ra. The eye of Ra was actually the eye of Saturn, or in other words, as Tolkien depicted, the eye of Sauron. Again, the evil eye, basically the serpent, the reptilian eye, the snake eye, as I covered so in depth in Symbols of Power Part 2 and Part 3 as well. But so we'll have to go back and I'll have to tie that into here as well, just to show you how significant this is. And so again, as Jormungandr in Norse mythology, there also is another story in the legends of the Norse, of a story of a king and who adopted a small lindworm or serpent monster as a gift to his daughter. Eventually it grows so large that it encircles the girl's home. The king promises the daughter's hand in marriage to whoever kills the beast, and eventually the feat is accomplished by Ragnar Lodbrok, a legendary Norse Viking. And later Ragnar is said to have had a son, and the son is born with the strange image in his eye, basically a defect or a type of image in his eye that was equated as the serpent as a white snake, or the Ouroboros encircling his iris, biting its own tail. Therefore, the son was named Sigurd, Snake in the Eye. So, in other words, yet again, the archetypal universal connection to the snake eye, or the serpent in the eye, the snake eyes. And we covered this so much, literally almost the entire Symbols of Power Part 2 film was dedicated entirely to the symbolism of the serpent and the snake eye. So I'll give you a few examples here just to tie this in, to show you how significant it is. But please go back and watch the Symbols of Power Part 2 film once again and revisit that film.
In the vinner of all men, in the vinner of all men, stands a solitary candle. At the center of it all, at the center of it all.
The mind's eye, the third eye, lies directly in the center of the human skull. The pineal is sensitive to light and generates its own source of perceptual light as dimethyltryptamine. It's known as the seat of the soul and the receptor of consciousness. It is the receiver of sight beyond sight.
The Eye of Thundera! A Thundercat's in danger!
If you'd like to purchase this book, you can head over to my brand new website that I've set up. It's still very bare bones. There's a lot of work I need to do on the site, but for now it's got the basic things that I need on there until I upload all of my content. You can sign up for the newsletter to receive email updates on all of my posts as I begin to populate the site with all of my archives of articles, books, videos, and films and courses and all of that good stuff. So you'll get notifications as I begin to populate the website website with all of my content on it. So that's a good reason to sign up right now, even though there's no content on it yet. But you can pick up my books there. I've got my Hive Mind book. I've also got a couple other titles that I've released for, which are just study aids. They are journals such as Divine Manifestations, a dream journal to log your dream and awakening experiences and to highlight any insights or intuitions that may come to you along your process of growth and exploration of all of this content. I've got a food journal to log your nutritional progress and to log your health and fitness progress as well. And I've got a 50 Days of Gratitude journal as well, and I will be releasing several more titles as well to help expand and explore your own creativity and things of that nature. So these make great gifts for any friends, beloved family, any loved ones. So these are great gifts that you can pick up and also support Lifting the Veil and the work that I do in the process. So feel free and head on over to my brand new website, liftingtheveil.tv. And I will see all of you there. All right, have a great day. Thank you. My name is Cullen Smith. This is Lifting the Veil. You can find all of my full books, presentations, videos, films, articles, posts at subscribestar.com/liftingtheveil. Patreon has suspended this work and my account and income stream for this content. So if you are a supporting patron, then please, I ask you to move your support over to subscribestar.com/liftingtheveil. And I have just established a completely free, uncensored, totally free speech social media platform that replaces Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, every other platform all in one on liftingtheveil.locals.com. You can download the Locals app and you can join our group and have totally free speech and totally uncensored, unrestricted content access. And there is also a ton of exclusive content, and I will leave the cited reference links in the description down below. So you can check that out for all of my full content, and I will see you guys in the next video. I rely solely on word of mouth, and the recommended algorithms are not recommending any of my videos or films anymore. My channel has literally been completely restricted, so I rely on your help by sharing my work around if you appreciate it, and leave me your comments. I definitely want to know what you have to share and what you have to think about all of this stuff, and I will see you in the next video.